Hello, my name's Chris Gawarski, and I'll be spending the next 5 minutes showing you how to make a simple, delicious mocktail that you can enjoy during today's event. The theme of DMRF's 4th annual Impact Reception is Happy Hour, where we virtually raise a glass to celebrate the incredible health research DMRF donors have helped make possible. Now, before I begin, I want to tell you why I'm so pleased to be here today, celebrating the work of the Dalhousie Medical Research Foundation. I first came to know of DMRF back in 2017. I was hired to produce photographs and videos for DMRF's magazine, The Philanthropist. Since that time, we've produced hundreds of stills photography and video shoots together that showcase the amazing local health researchers that you, their donors, support. This has given me the opportunity to meet donors like you in person, as well as patients who have benefited from the life-saving health research that your dollars help to fund. I'm more than proud to work with the DMRF team and do my part to support these researchers who work tirelessly each day to improve health research outcomes for each of us. So now, let's get started on making a drink that we can enjoy while we watch DMRF's 4th annual Impact Reception. In tribute and celebration to the millions of lives impacted by medical research, the millions of cumulative hours invested in medical research right here in the Maritimes, and the millions of dollars raised by donors like you, we will be making the DMRF Moving Millions Mojito Mocktail. This will be a twist on the classic traditional Cuban highball cocktail that often consists of just a few simple ingredients. To make our drink, the ingredients you'll need are 10 fresh blueberries plus a few extra for garnish. No blueberries? No problem. Any berries in your fridge or freezer will do. 2 to 3 fresh mint leaves, a lime wedge plus a teaspoon of lime juice, a cup of sparkling water, or if you like things on the sweet side, 7-Up, 2 teaspoons of simple syrup. If you don't have simple syrup, don't worry. You can mix 2 teaspoons of honey with a teaspoon of water, or combine equal amounts of sugar and water in a saucepan and heat on the stove until the sugar is dissolved. Lastly, you'll need enough ice cubes to fill your glass. The tools that you'll need are a highball glass, which really is just a tall glass or tumbler, a shaker or any container to mix your ingredients in, like this shake container, a muddler, or a wooden cooking spoon will do the trick, something to stir your ingredients with, and a strainer. I'm going to use this bar strainer. You can use any kitchen strainer. To make our drink, start off by filling your highball glass with ice. Next, in your shaker, combine the 10 blueberries, the lime wedge, the lime juice, the simple syrup or honey mixture, and to release the oils from your mint leaves, we're going to place them in the palm of your non-dominant hand and give our researchers and donors a round of applause. And then we're going to toss those in as well. With your muddler or spoon, mash those ingredients together. Next, we're going to add a 1/4 cup of sparkling water or 7-Up. If you'd like to make the alcoholic version of this drink, add a shot of your favorite rum. Then we're going to stir the ingredients together to mix them up. Strain the ingredients into your glass over the ice. Top the drink off with the remaining sparkling water or 7-Up. And feel free to garnish with a few extra blueberries, mint, or lime wedge. Now, if I was going too fast for you or you need a refill, no worries, I've got your back. In a separate browser window so that you don't lose the Impact Reception, head to gawarski.com/DMRF to watch a condensed version of this video featuring only the recipe that you can play, pause, and rewind as much as you like. Well, now that we have our drink made, I think it's time for us to join the DMRF's Impact Reception. We welcome you to share your creations on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, using the hashtag DMRFImpact21. I want to thank you for supporting DMRF and caring about local research.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Dalhousie Medical Research Foundation's 4th annual Impact Reception. I have the pleasure this evening of being your host. I'm Dr. Christine Chambers, and I'm thrilled to be here celebrating DMRF donors. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that Dalhousie University is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, and I pay my respects to the elders. First off, I want to thank Jacob McDonald, who led us with his beautiful piano playing. Jacob graduated from the Fountain School of Performing Arts at Dalhousie in 2020. Jacob, that was truly incredible. Thank you. He currently works at the Scotia Suzuki School as a piano teacher and offers private piano, cello, and violin lessons. Jacob began playing piano at 3 years old and then the violin and cello a few years later. I suggest that you stick around after the impact reception, as Jacob will be delighting us with his cello playing. And you can trust me, his cello playing is as good as his piano playing. He is such a talent. As you may know, the theme of DMRF's 4th annual impact reception is Happy Hour, where we virtually raise a glass to thank the incredible health research that you, DMRF donors, have helped us to make possible. Thank you also to Chris Gawarski for hosting the mocktail portion of our event. I hope you're enjoying the DMRF Moving Millions Mojito mocktail, created in celebration of your commitment to philanthropy and the advancement of local health research. As Chris mentioned, he has also worked with DMRF since 2017. I've had the pleasure of working with Chris via his video and photography company, Gawarski Images. So thank you, Chris, for your continued support. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a professor and researcher at Dalhousie University, as well as the Canada Research Chair in Children's Pain. And the reason I wanted to host tonight's events is because DMRF donors have played a really important role in advancing my own work in children's pain. As the scientific director of a national knowledge mobilization network called SKIP, Solutions for Kids in Pain, my team and I work hard to improve children's pain management by mobilizing evidence-based solutions through coordination and collaboration. And since 2014, DMRF has helped me connect with donors like you who care deeply about improving outcomes for children in pain. In fact, our work is currently featured in DMRF's Spring Molly Appeal. And I want to thank you for your support of the Molly Appeal and of me and my work. Women in science can face unique obstacles and challenges, and having the support of DMRF has been a critical source of stability and encouragement for me over the years. On that note, I'd like to introduce you to one of the first people that I had the good fortune of meeting and ever spoke with at DMRF, Ms. Joanne Bath. Joanne spent several years as DMRF's Director of Philanthropy, and at the end of 2019 became their Chief Executive Officer, a position that I feel is very well earned and deserved. Joanne's first year with the foundation has certainly been challenging, considering the first few months of her new position marked the beginning of a global pandemic. Despite that, DMRF is thriving, and from what I've heard, had a banner year, paying out more to local health research than ever before. But I'll let her tell you more about that. Welcome, Joanne.
Thank you, Christine, for those kind words. I do remember the first day we met back in 2014 and how impressed I was with your research in children's pain. So thank you for being here tonight and hosting. We are proud to support you, and just like our pride in supporting your research, we're also very proud to support hundreds of local researchers who are committed to improving the health and wellness of each of us. Hello, everyone. As Christine mentioned, I'm Joanne Bath, and I'm pleased to welcome you to DMRF's 4th annual Impact Reception. Tonight, we celebrate you, our donors, and the difference your giving makes to improving whole human health. The health research you support focuses on finding faster diagnosis, treating and curing diseases, but also on important topics like mental health, improving quality of life, access to care, diversity, vulnerable populations, women's health, and more. We all deserve good health. And when our health isn't at its best, We deserve to receive the best treatments and support to ensure we can return to our optimal state of wellness. At DMRF, this is what we envision for everyone. As Christine said, DMRF did have a banner year despite the global health pandemic, and maybe because of it, because more than ever, health research is important to all of us. As I mentioned in the impact report you received in the mail last week, thanks to you, DMRF has had its largest granting year yet, CNS paying out more than $6.2 million to local health research. That's an astonishing $600,000 increase from last year's $5.6 million, which at the time was also a landmark. So thank you so much for your part in that granting. The DMRF team and the researchers we support could not have pushed through the many challenges that were put upon us in early 2020 without your enduring commitment. Thanks to your dedication and giving, DMRF, along with several community partners, were able to raise $1.5 million in just 7 days to support 40 groundbreaking COVID-19 related research projects. These projects are still gaining momentum and have become a crucial aspect of the new health research ecosystem in our province and around the world. Aside from that, DMRF has continued to fund critical health research in the areas of cancer, cardiology, mental health, Alzheimer's, health equity, and more. Because as we know, those health issues did not stop because we were in a global pandemic. And as we look towards the other side of the COVID-19 health crisis, and I know we're all ready for that, we can thank health researchers for their remarkable and timely contributions to discovering rapid testing methods, several effective vaccines, and many other innovations that have come as a result of this pandemic. I hope you know that your philanthropic giving is supporting life-saving health outcomes such as these and focused on many other diseases. I thank you sincerely on behalf of the DMRF team, our board, our researchers, and the people who have benefited from this research in our community. I hope you enjoy your evening with us. I know I'm excited to hear more from our researchers. Cheers, and back to you, Christine.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And thank you to the DMRF team for the work you do to ensure donors understand the impacts of their giving on our work. Now let's proceed with the main portion of our evening. I'm very excited to introduce 3 outstanding local health researchers who are going to blow you away with the groundbreaking work that they are conducting right here in our own backyard. Tonight, you will hear from Dr. Danny Boyd, Dr. OmiSoore Dryden, and Dr. Gabriela Ilie. But first, I'd like to give you a little background on the style of presentation we are doing this evening because our time is limited and because health research content can be so complex, we decided to challenge our presenters to create Ignite style talks. Ignite talks are a series of speedy presentations where presenters get 20 slides which automatically advance every 15 seconds, whether they're caught up to their slides or not. The result is a fast and fun presentation, which lasts just 5 minutes. And now we realize that this is a lot to expect from what is often considered heavy content, but we're confident that these researchers can pull it off. And I know I was challenged to do this when I presented at DMRF's Impact Reception in 2019. So if you're looking for more detail about Danny, OmiSoore, and Gabriela's work, please refer to your impact report or to the DMRF website at www.dmrf.ca. And after each talk, we'll be allowing a 5-minute question and answer period. So please enter your questions in the Zoom chat and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. So let's get started. Our first presenter is Dr. Daniel Boyd, or Danny, as we've come to know him. Danny is an associate professor at Dalhousie's Faculty of Dentistry and School of Biomedical Engineering, as well as co-founder of ABK Biomedical and IR Scientific. As a globally recognized inventor of several biomaterial technologies, Danny's work focuses on investigating and developing pioneering glass compounds that can treat a wide range of diseases. To date, Danny's novel glass technologies have been proven to aid in cancer treatments, the healing of bone fractures, tooth decay, and more. With a commitment to support Danny's momentum and bring novel treatments to patients as quickly as possible, DMRF donors have recently provided funding for 2 major projects in his lab, focused on developing treatments for osteoarthritis and scoliosis. Welcome, Danny.
Thanks, Christine. We've created and commercialized some of the coolest glass projects on the planet. Glasses that can emit radiation from inside a tumor or degrade inside the body, and while they're degrading, trigger the body to heal itself or cause cancer cells to self-destruct. But today I'm going to give you a flavor of some new projects in our lab. My name is Danny, and I'm a son, a husband, and a dad to these 3 fabulous kids. And I'm also a passionate health researcher, one lucky enough to work with the amazing team at DMRF. In a nutshell, all of my research is about glass materials, and our research has developed breakthrough medical technologies that have brought over $70 million of investment to Nova Scotia. Right now, we're developing a breakthrough medical device, a drug-free pain management solution for patients with osteoarthritis. We care about arthritis because it affects hundreds of millions of people around the world, and these patients don't have effective pain management strategies. The condition has a real negative impact on people's lives, people like my mom. And mom makes her views well known when it comes to pain management solutions. Here's a snapshot summed up with, why isn't there something that works? So we figured we'd take a look at the problem. We got out at a lab and we talked to doctors around the world, and we asked them, what would it take to treat the pain associated with knee osteoarthritis in a safe, easy, and effective way? We got a clear answer. They need tiny microspheres. Think glass marbles the size of a grain of salt. A microsphere that could be seen on X-ray, but would be invisible on MRI. This is why they wanted it. Patients feel pain because of pain receptors in areas of the knee where there shouldn't be any. These pain receptors are fed by blood vessels, and if doctors had microspheres that they could see on X-ray, then they could target these blood vessels, block the blood flow to the pain receptors, and eliminate pain. But the particle would have to degrade to avoid complications. For us, it was a case of challenge accepted, because if we could do these things in one material, we would have a game-changing treatment for patients. The 3 things the doctors needed were microspheres that were imageable, soluble, safe, and effective. So we went to the universe's Lego box and we got to work. We screened elements that would help us make a dissolving glass, from elements that would be safe, elements that would allow us to control the molecular structures in the glass to manage its degradation and also control its imageability. We designed a brand new range of chemistries, and we developed microspheres that were, as these images show, completely imageable. In fact, this data shows that we're able to dial in any level of imageability a doctor wants so that they've got the flexibility to treat a variety of patients in a variety of ways. And here are the glass microspheres. And yes, they degrade completely. In fact, we've been able to engineer that too. And we can dial in any preferred degradation time frame to provide the very best patient treatment options. Now we had to ask ourselves, was the product safe and effective? So using a procedure recognized by regulatory agencies, we had an independent interventional radiologist confirm that our prototype microspheres were super effective. He could see them perfectly in a clinical setting. They did their job perfectly in a clinical setting. And when their job was done, they were completely and safely eliminated from the body. The team had done it. So we went back to the doctors that originally spoke with us and we showed them our data, and here's what they said. The technology is an absolute game changer, and it's not only for osteoarthritis, it can treat a range of conditions. So now we're on a highway to get this product into as many patients as we can as quickly as possible. And we're working around the clock with people all over the world to make that a reality. But there's something I really want to draw your attention to. This work would not be possible without the support of DMRF and local funding partners like InnovaCorp. We could not have done it without them, but we're not stopping there. So my daughter was a patient at IWK and was sick with scoliosis. She needed a bone graft. Her options were really limited, but the bone graft was crucial to her healing. In partnership with students and physicians, we're developing a new synthetic bone graft, one that can degrade in the body and trigger new blood vessels and new bones to be formed and speed up recovery for patients. With the support of DMRF, that project is now underway. Watch this space because we got another amazing team doing more amazing things with glass, but this time it's for patients with scoliosis. DMRF is also helping us to treat oral health diseases in patients that are untreated. Over 2 billion people on the planet, 500 million of which are kids, suffer from dental caries. We're building breakthrough antibacterial products that do not require antibiotics to be effective. And thanks to DMRF donors, this project is just getting started. There's so many people to thank, and this work wouldn't be possible without support from a wide range of sectors. My sincere thanks to everybody that makes our work possible. My name is Danny, I make glass, and thanks to the support of DMRF, I think we're just getting started.
Thank you so much, Danny. That is fascinating. I'm really intrigued by this incredibly innovative way to treat a broad level of conditions and diseases. And I can see why DMRF donors have been so keen to support your research. So let's see if our guests have any questions about your work. Here's one. Are there limits as to what types of cancer that can be treated by biomaterials, or is that yet to be determined?
There is absolutely no limits here. We're able to use biomaterials to create cancer vaccines, to trigger cellular responses, to build new diagnostic models that allow us to screen out new therapies. One example of what we can do outside of my research, I got a colleague called Dr. Mark Ilie. He does amazing work. He makes small soluble products that can release chemotherapy inside a tumor. Now, to put a personal spin on that, my dad passed away from lung cancer a couple of years ago, and he was on a chemo cycle where he would spend 2 weeks really sick to get 1 week really well. That was because the drug was delivered throughout his entire body. Mark Ilie is working on a technology where the drug can be localized inside a tumor, only targeting the tumor, delivering just the right amount of chemotherapy into the area it's needed. That would have changed my dad's life completely. It would have changed the quality of his life. So to answer your question, as far as I'm concerned, I see no limits to the power of what biomaterials can do. We're already doing amazing things. What's in the pipeline is spectacular, everything from cancer vaccines to new diagnostics. And what's happening around the corner at the Faculty of Dentistry, like I say, is a technology that could have changed my dad's life and his quality of life had he had access to it earlier.
Amazing. Wow. So here's another question. Can people access these types of treatments now?
So there's an awful lot of exciting biomaterials treatments available now, Christine, that's for sure. Breakthrough treatments are coming on stream all of the time. Our glass research is right on the cusp of clinical use, I'm very excited to report. We're hoping to have 2 new technologies treating patients in the very near future, starting at the end of this year. So we're very excited about that.
That's incredible. That is really exciting. Here's one for you around the last year, this pandemic that we've been living through. How has the COVID-19 health pandemic impacted your research?
It was brutal at the start, Christine. You know, it was really hard. It shut us down, is what it did, right? It shut us down. But we work with amazing people. Like, we're so lucky to have the support of so many people. We got the team, we adapted, we adjusted, we figured it out, we got on with the job. We still have to curtail the number of people that can access the lab. It slowed down some things, but the resilience of the researchers in our region has, honestly, it's blown me away, Christine, because we've been able to, despite the challenges, get on with it. We've had record publication years, record grant writing years. Like anything, we find a way.
Yeah, it really speaks to the sense of community that we have surrounding us as health researchers
Absolutely.
in the Maritime. So, well, that's fantastic. That's all the time, Danny, that we have to chat with you. Thank you again for joining us this evening and discussing your work.
Thank you so much.
Great. So now I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker is Dr. OmiSoore Dryden. And OmiSoore engages in interdisciplinary scholarship and research that focuses on LGBTQI people, blood donation, Black diasporic communities in Canada, systemic structural issues that affect health and well-being, medical education, and critical race theory and Black health curricular content development. When the COVID-19 pandemic began in Nova Scotia roughly 1 year ago, it negatively impacted African Nova Scotian and Black communities. In an effort to better understand this, Dr. Dryden set out to collect race-based health data in these communities with an ultimate goal to use these data to inform health policy and address health inequities in the region in the future. Thanks to your support through the Nova Scotia COVID-19 Health Research Coalition, Dr. Dryden was initially awarded a $40,000 grant with DMRF and Dartmouth General Hospital Foundation, raising an additional $35,000, bringing the grant total to over $70,000. Since then, OmiSoore has made significant progress. And before she begins, I want to remind you to submit your questions to the chat box. And with that in mind, it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Dryden.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon. I'm going to share my screen, which is always stressful for me, so bear with me. All right, gosh. I start from the beginning. Let me make sure I could see the chat. Great. Thank you so much for welcoming me here and inviting me here. I'm so excited to be able to speak with you and share some information about the project. I'm so glad it's on 15 seconds rotation. So I'm the James R. Johnston Chair in Black Canadian Studies in the Faculty of Medicine and also an associate professor in the Department of Community Health and Epidemiology. And the chair is named after Mr. James R. Johnston. My focus really is to understand that COVID-19 and its impact on Black communities, including African Nova Scotian communities, was not about behavior, but in fact was about systemic racism. So it's always important to name systemic racism. If we believe that we're just being objective or colorblind, what it means is that we're turning our back on the racism that's existing. Systemic racism, by naming it, means that we're putting it out there and we know that we need to account for it. So my project, Don't Count Us Out, these are the team members. We went and took a picture of ourselves in North Preston by the Black Cultural Center. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been part of this work. So what we know through the United States and the UK early on in COVID was that it was negatively impacting Black communities, African Americans and Black UK folks. And we needed to re-look at the social determinants of health to understand how racism impacts our health. And so this is what Don't Count Us Out is looking at, how the social determinants of health impact our health, specifically around COVID, and looking at a framework to better address that. And so our research questions looked at the intersecting nature of social determinants of health, measuring the determinants of trust. Do African Nova Scotian communities trust the information coming out of public health? And then of course, looking at disaggregated data. We thought the best way to do that was to partner with the project that was led by Dr. Ingrid Waldron. And so we brought our projects together to share resources and to share our research team, and as a way to not over-survey the Preston Township. So you could see that we had similar objectives in our grants. And so we wanted to work together to make sure that we were actually surveying more people, which you can see here. So we had, as a combined work, we had cognitive interviews, the survey for 800 members, and then the focus groups. And you'll see the breakdown here. And then we had pretty much gender parity, including trans and gender nonconforming folks. So these are our key findings that roughly half the participants strongly agreed with the following statements in terms of access to COVID testing, the pandemic response, and public health, trustworthiness. But it's also important to note, sorry, not on this slide, maybe the next slide. It's important to identify not where also the large numbers are, but to add up all the small numbers as well, how you read the data. Here, we found that that there was a significant amount of people who lost their jobs as a result of COVID, and this negatively can impact health outcomes, as you know. We also found that while just about 50% of people said they thought that public health was doing a good job, when you combine all the other numbers, it meant that also 50% of people had some areas of mistrust that we're going to need to respond to. And we see this again here. This looked at federal responses as well as the community response provincially, and identified in some of the qualitative data, some of the highlights. This slide speaks to our call to use health card information and asking African Nova Scotian and African Nova Scotian folks in the Preston Township to share their health card information with us so that we can absolutely know that we're looking at data from Health Data Nova Scotia that is on African Nova Scotian people. And then of course, our future findings is to work collaboratively with the provincial government and public health in terms of being able to respond to the concerns that were raised and also to move forward. And one of the ways that's already happened is that the provincial government most recently did talk about going to collect disaggregated data and beginning that process. Whew, I am open to answering any questions.
That's excellent, OmiSoore. I know, I've done one of these before. We researchers aren't used to condensing our whole body of work into 5 minutes. So you did an amazing job. That was fantastic.
It's so mean. Why would you do that to a professor? We have hours to talk to students. What is happening?
That's fantastic. Listen, I really enjoyed that presentation. The importance of this work can't be understated. And I'm so happy to see DMRF donors supporting health research that's focused on diverse, vulnerable populations. So now we have a couple of minutes to field any questions that have been coming your way. And so let me just see.
Absolutely.
Here's a
Go ahead.
What made you decide to move to Nova Scotia to conduct your research at Dalhousie?
Oh, thank you so much. You know, I'm the principal investigator for the project Got Blood to Give, Du Sang a Donner, which looks at the experiences of Black men who have sex with men in blood donation. And so it was a national project largely focusing on Ontario, Quebec, and Nova Scotia. And so I'd come to Halifax quite often for my research. And then I saw the posting for the James R. Johnston Chair, and literally I crossed my fingers, my toes, my partner's fingers and toes, my brother's fingers and toes, and I hope that it would work out. And when it did, it was the best decision we could have made for my family. So it's fantastic to be here. African Nova Scotian communities have been really embracing of me and the research, which also includes holding me accountable when I'm making a misstep. So it's been a really, really good place to be.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I know we're so pleased to have you at Dalhousie, and we haven't had the chance of meeting in person yet because of the pandemic. So I really look forward to that opportunity. Perhaps you could offer some advice about what resources or considerations other researchers can use in their research to make sure that their work is more inclusive.
Thank you so much for that question. I think if you're doing any kind of surveying, then make sure that you are also looking at disaggregated data. So always ask for people's ethno-racial identities, ask for people's sexual identities, ask for people's gender identities. This is important because then it allows you to think about who your population is and who you're surveying and who your research is for. The other piece is to make sure that you have a diverse research team at all levels. And so this is where you really want to engage with community-based researchers and invite them in, not invite them in, but partner with them about the trajectory you'd like to see your research turn to. But I also want to say that because of the funders in this project, we were able to get this funding. It's not as easy to do that in other public funding agencies because they don't necessarily identify Black communities as an area of research, right? And so it's these dollars have really allowed us to go in without restriction financially to do the kind of data collection in an appropriate way that also honors the participation of community members.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. And it's just incredible how much you've been able to accomplish in such a short period of time. So congratulations. And I guess one last question was just how can donors support your work right now? I noticed comments in the chat, around opportunities to expand your research. So your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh, we would love to expand this research. So please help us do that. We've had African Nova Scotian communities from Sydney to Guysborough to Digby reach out to us and say, we also had experiences and will you meet with us? And so as we're wrapping this up, we're also thinking about how do we expand it. And so please reach out to myself or Dr. Waldron or any, Dr. Barbara Hamilton Hinch. We've been working as this really great team to do this work. And we would fully appreciate the opportunity to be able to expand it and to create more community university committees to do the work.
Fantastic. Well, I hate to stop, but our time is up. So thank you again, OmiSoore, for your presentation. I look forward to learning more about your work. And to our guests, thank you for sending in incredible questions and for all your support. So keep them coming as we hear from our final presenter, Dr. Gabriela Ilie. Gabriela is an assistant professor at Dalhousie in the departments of community health and epidemiology, urology, psychology, and neuroscience and radiation oncology. She is also the DMRF endowed Solsha research scientist in prostate cancer quality of life research, a position created thanks to donors Frank and Debbie Sobey and supported by many other DMRF donors. With the help of DMRF funding beginning in 2016, Gabriela has made significant strides in impacting the health and wellness of men affected by prostate cancer, as well as their families and loved ones. Since that time, she and her team have worked on the development and evaluation of a unique, multifaceted intervention, the Prostate Cancer Patient Empowerment Program, or PCPEP. This intervention was developed following the immediate engagement of patients, survivors, caregivers, and healthcare professionals who identified the survivorship needs of patients and includes elements such as physical activity, physiotherapy, dietary components, emotional and social support, and weekly program compliance surveys. To date, approximately 700 men across the Maritimes have benefited from the various stages of this program. I've had the pleasure of knowing Gabriela for a
Hi, Christine, you froze for a sec, but you're back now.
Oh, okay. I was just turning it over to Gabriela.
I arrived in Halifax 5 years ago from University of Toronto as a DMRF Soldier Research Scientist in prostate cancer quality of life. My position was created to shed light on the needs of men diagnosed with prostate cancer and action these findings into practical solutions to help them lead better quality lives. In the first day on the job, I didn't know anybody here, so I called a local prostate cancer support group and I asked them if I could join their regular meetings and asked them if they wouldn't mind engaging with me in the program of research I was building. Then I talked to the physicians, and they really didn't know how their patients were doing outside medical appointments. So it became obvious to me that I had to create an online survey to assess the patients using scientifically validated questionnaires. People said, it's going to be tough for you to get men to sit down and take an online comprehensive survey. But 500 Maritimes patients 2 years later, there was a pattern that was emerging. And it was really very shocking at first to see just how much these men were actually suffering. They were suffering from the side effects of their radiation, hormonal therapy, their prostatectomies. They had high levels of urinary incontinence, problems sleeping, erectile dysfunction. They suffered from fatigue, and their relationships were suffering. And so, if you put all these things together, it is not so surprising that when we examined our measures of mental health, we uncovered a silent epidemic of depression, loneliness, and disconnect. We found that these men had more than twice the odds of mental health illness compared to men who never had a prostate cancer diagnosis or men with any other form of cancer. They had urinary problems, sexual distress, and poor attendance to support groups. These findings match the results of two other independent, large national and Atlantic Canada databases 2 years later. And so I partnered with a radiation oncologist who is the clinical lead in the PCPEP program, who treats prostate cancer. And we said, listen, what can we do? How can we action this research into a practical solution for this cancer group? And so we held an annual conference. We brought in the men and their partners, urologists and radiation oncologists from across the Maritimes, hospital administrators, health promotion experts, and we presented the results of the survey and what the patients had to say. We showed them this intervention that used science and could potentially address the needs the patients identified. And they said, yes, we need this, we want this. We had incredible endorsement from this whole group, and especially the patients. The program we came up with is called Prostate Cancer Patient Empowerment Program, PCPEP. It is a home-based online intervention that consists of daily emails for 6 months with video links for strength exercises with increased difficulty levels, pelvic floor training, phone text alerts 3 times a day to help with urinary incontinence, stress reduction through the use of a biofeedback device, dietary and relationship advice, social connection with men who are in the program and mentors who have completed the program, and monthly group video conferences for support. This program is not just helping men, it's infiltrating into the community and helping all of us. It's helping their families. We heard from family members who say, I can't believe this. I'm going over for dinner at my parents' house and they're eating carrots. And all they're talking about is healthy eating habits, exercising. In 2019, we piloted the program on 30 men. We had a battery of physical and psychological tests. We measured their stress brain response and heart rate variability. We had extensive quantitative and qualitative assessments, plus weekly compliance surveys. 28 days later, men lost weight, had increased flexibility, and most importantly, their mental health improved significantly. Last year, we started a phase 3 randomized clinical trial with 6 months intervention, 6 months standard of care comparison for 1 year. We recruited 140 guys in 13 months. 70 exit interviews later, the men are giving a 9.6 out of 10 endorsement for the program to be standard of care from day 1 of diagnosis. The urologists are raving about it. The radiation oncologists are raving about it. Patients are saying PCPEP is a game changer. Now we are preparing an implementation trial of the program in Nova Scotia. The Nova Scotia Cancer Program has given us endorsement to roll it into the standard of care. We want to expand PCPEP throughout Atlantic Canada and beyond, and to other forms of cancer. We have a large group of patients engaged in research as research citizens and mentors, and the community of PCPEP is growing. None of this work would have happened without the support of DMRF, Frank and Debbie Sobey, and the numerous donors to the Solcha Fund they created. Together, we're changing lives.
Thanks, Gabriela. That was fantastic. Some great questions were coming in during your presentation. And one of them is, while this program has made a great deal of difference for those living with prostate cancer, could this become standard of care in other disease areas?
Thank you so much, Christine. Yes, expanding the PCPEP program to other forms of cancer and integrating it to the standard of care is part of the goal of my program of research and that of my research lab and team. The plan is first to integrate PCPEP into the standard of care throughout Nova Scotia. And we're rolling this program out with the support of the Nova Scotia Cancer Centre as of September 2021. So we're opening the gates to all prostate cancer patients and survivors from day one of diagnosis. We're really excited about this. And then expand throughout Atlantic Canada, hopefully by the end of the year. That's the plan, the timeline. And then throughout Canada, nationally, December 2021 into January 2022. At the same time, we are working with patients, survivors, clinicians of other forms of cancer, more specifically breast, colorectal, lung, and other cancer groups to expand this program to their sites. PCPEP, this program really shed light, and it's funny because the name of the position is SOLCHA, Guiding Light. What can we do to improve the lives of cancer patients when we engage patients in research and not as an afterthought, engage them from day one of developing the research? What we're doing now is leveraging the work we've done by developing a website, an app to make this program accessible to all, working with prostate cancer support groups, treatment centers nationally and internationally. Our plan is really to expand throughout other cancer sites by 2022 and start that work. So everybody can have a personalized patient empowerment program from day one of diagnosis. And we think that by providing patients with this information, with the training, with the coaching of the techniques that we teach, meant to empower them to lead better living, by connecting them with the community, a community of experts, but also survivors, which is imperative, by making them accountable in the program, we increase their chances of success and to accomplish those goals that lead to better living in the short and long term.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank our three presenters for taking the time to share their work with us. We are so fortunate to have three exceptional health researchers working locally in our region. So thank you to Danny, OmiSoore, and Gabriela. I'd like to now bring Joanne back for a special conversation with Dr. Harold Robertson and Dr. Elizabeth Townsend. Harold and Elizabeth have been donors to DMRF for the past 20 years, beginning with a donation to the DMRF Molly Appeal in 2001. Today, as retired Dalhousie professors, the couple continues to give back to the local research community, including through the recently established DMRF Harold A. Robertson Award in Parkinson's disease research. After studying dopamine and its role in diseases such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and schizophrenia for decades, Harold was personally diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2015. Today, he continues his research in Parkinson's disease with the hope of one day finding a cure. And now, thanks to Dr. Robertson and Dr. Townsend's generous gift, the DMRF Harold A. Robertson Award in Parkinson's disease research will help to bolster research efforts at Dalhousie working towards the same goal. So I will turn the floor over to Joanne, Harold, and Elizabeth.
Thank you, Christine. Really appreciate you being here today, Christine, and hosting for us. It's fantastic to have one of our researchers hosting and asking questions of her fellow researchers. So thank you. And to all of our presenters, thank you for taking the time today on a sunny day to share your work with our donors so they can hear about the impact that they've had with their support. And welcome, Harold and Liz. I so appreciate that you've been a donor to DMRF for 20 years. That's just outstanding. And that you've made this new commitment to support Parkinson's research, something I know is very personal to both of you. So welcome.
Thank you.
I do have a few questions for you, and we'll jump right in. I understand, and as Christina has said, you were both health research scientists at Dalhousie. What did you do, and how did it relate to Parkinson's disease?
Well, Joanne, I have been professor of pharmacology from 1978 to 2009. And professor emeritus from then on. My research has been on regulation of gene expression in the brain. Gene expression, especially as it relates to neurotransmission. And my lab was fortunate enough in the early days to be able to identify some genes that are regulated in the brain. And some of these are regulated in Parkinson's disease, others in related disorders like schizophrenia, Alzheimer's disease.
Liz?
Yes, I was a founder and later director of Atlantic Canada's only school of occupational health, Dalhousie University, and was very fortunate then to be able to do some research myself. I was focused on mental health support systems. And that's what alerted me, or has alerted me in this new life with Parkinson's disease in our life, to look at the way support systems, whether it's health systems or housing or transportation, support people with Parkinson's and other kinds of diseases that limit what you do in daily life.
Thank you so much. Both of you have had really interesting research careers. Harold, 6 years ago, you were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. How has this impacted your life day to day? And what would be your top recommendations for those living with the condition?
Well, the first thing is you think when you hear a diagnosis like this is, why me? But I think perhaps a better way to approach it would be, why not me? The incidence of Parkinson's disease in the older patients is upwards of 3% by the time you're 85 years old. And even at 65, the prevalence in the general population is about 1%, 1 out of every 100 people. Well, it shouldn't be a surprise then that every once in a while, one of these 100th of a patient is going to also be a Parkinson's disease researcher.
So you were going to say something about recommending exercise?
So recommending what to do, I'll tell you what helped me was recommendations to get involved in exercise. And in fact, when you look into the literature, the only treatment that we have currently that even looks as if it were going to be halting the progression of the Parkinson's disease is exercise. And it turns out there may even be a scientific basis for this effective exercise on alleviating some of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. So it's important that we work out how it is working. And,
you were also going to say something about optimism, I think.
yes. Optimism is another important thing to develop. When you've got a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. I'm an optimist myself, and I've been inspired by Michael J. Fox and his attitude towards Parkinson's disease, which he has had now for 30 years himself. My optimism has been encouraged by his book, his recent book, which is subtitled "No Time Like the Future, An Optimist Considers Mortality."
Thank you for that. Thank you. I so appreciate that. And the power of optimism can't be understated. And I've also too learned a little about the importance of walking and boxing as it relates to Parkinson's. So thank you for sharing that. Liz, as you've said earlier, there's lots of impacts on caregivers. Do you have any advice for the friends and family of members who, or of people who have loved ones living with Parkinson's disease or other neurodegenerative diseases from your firsthand experience?
Well, I would echo what Harry has said. Exercise has made a huge difference, and he's got a personal trainer at the YMCA now, so that he's going once a week. And he is genuinely an optimistic person, and it makes a huge difference. So if you can encourage the people that you're living with neurological diseases to be as optimistic as possible, that's good. But I would also say that as somebody who is now part of this family, I don't know that I'm the only caregiver, because we're all looking after each other. Harry's looking after me too. And I have to, and I guess I encourage anybody who's with somebody with a neurological disease to find ways to be yourself as well as a caregiver. Very easy to get lost in all the time constraints and duties and whatnot. So walking and exercise, just the same as with Harry. When he went to his boxing class, I always went too. So that's my advice, is just to stay active and try and keep your own life going as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So we have one more question. As someone who's worked in the field of philanthropy, I've worked in philanthropy for 20 years. I appreciate how a personal gift, such as the one that you've made to the DMRF Harold A. Robertson Award in Parkinson's disease research, how important that must be and how it must feel to the two of you as donors. What made you create this award? Either of you can answer.
You first or me?
You go ahead.
All right. Well, certainly, as Harry or Harold has said, Parkinson's disease is very prevalent. But there's also some hope, optimism that a cure is possible. And certainly many aspects of Parkinson's research help move towards that idea of a cure. And we wanted to have an award that would focus particularly on Parkinson's disease. I know there are other neurological diseases, but with so much sense that something could be done to have a breakthrough, we thought this award might be one way of encouraging DMRF donors to follow in our steps.
Wonderful.
You want to add to that?
No, just to say that all of the treatments we currently have for Parkinson's disease are symptomatic ones. We just identify a symptom, usually something to do with movement, lack of movement. And we've found many ways of treating the lack of movement in Parkinson's disease. What we haven't found in Parkinson's disease, any way of treating the cognitive effects of it, dementia, which patients often fear more than the lack of movement. You can put up with a lot of lack of movement if you're not zooming around in your own head.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly hope that this research award brings us closer. And I thank the two of you sincerely for funding this research, and on behalf of those who have Parkinson's, for funding this work. And we so sincerely appreciate you.
Thanks.
Now, thank you both. Now I'd like to introduce Janet MacMillan. Janet is the chair of the DMRF Board of Directors, and she's going to have some final words for us. So over to you, Janet.
Thank you, Joanne. And good evening, everyone, and welcome. As Joanne said, my name is Janet MacMillan, and I'm proud to be the chair of the DMRF Board. Let me just start by quickly thanking all of our participants this evening. Danny, your work never fails to astonish me, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next. OmiSoore, your research is groundbreaking at a time when we all need to be paying attention, so thank you. Gabriela, your passion creates your output, and so many men will experience health and wellness thanks to your commitment. Harold and Liz, thank you as well, not only for the years that you've spent working in health research, but for your continued support of DMRF. Truly, you are an example of philanthropy in action. So while the reasons to care about health research are many, I think the last year and a half has shown us just how crucial it is for our survival. In fact, the power of health research was evident when researchers from around the globe came together to find rapid testing and several effective vaccines for a virus that literally drew the world to a collective halt. I'm grateful. I think we're all grateful. Without the support of donors like you, many critical research projects would not be able to thrive in such an efficient manner. Danny, OmiSoore, and Gabriela are examples of this. Your giving is changing the face of health as we know it, and that is something to truly celebrate. As Joanne mentioned earlier, DMRF had its most successful year to date, seeing us pay out over $6 million to local health research projects. That's impressive. At DMRF, philanthropy is about connecting you, our donors, to the health research projects that mean the most to you. We take the time to understand the health research priorities, both locally and abroad, ensuring that we are supporting excellence. If you've had a chance to read the DMRF's most recent impact report, you'll see the evidence within these pages. The Dalhousie Medical Research Foundation has a rich history dating back over 40 years, when we were founded by caring and concerned community leaders who believed that health researchers in our region could and should be leaders, not just here, but around the world, and in the whole health research ecosystem. With a vision to advance health research outcomes, DMRF has raised tens of millions of dollars and supported thousands of groundbreaking health research projects. So when I say that we support excellence, I mean it. We have researchers from all around the world coming to work here. They love Nova Scotia and they love that we foster an environment of collaboration. While many of our researchers may call this region home, they are working broadly across international borders, connecting with some of the brightest minds in the world to improve the health and wellness of each of us. And that's why I'm a DMRF donor. I want to thank you all for joining on this evening and for supporting DMRF. Thank you again to Danny, OmiSoore, Gabriela, Harold, and Liz, as well as you, Christine, for hosting our event. Thank you to the DMRF team, who are also donors and who have worked especially hard this last year and a half during a global pandemic. They never stopped, not even for a day. I hope you'll stick around and enjoy the remarkable musical talent of Jacob McDonald once again. As Christine mentioned, he'll be ending our event with 10 minutes of beautiful cello music. Thank you, Jacob. Everyone, have a wonderful evening. I wish you health and wellness today and always.
you.